Native Americans, one of the things that's romanticized about them is their spirituality, right? You may have seen images about the peace pipe or teepees. I'm not going to. I'm going to ask Amin to talk about this picture. This is him and his buddy going ricing together. Spirituality is something real, and for Native people, you can't unwind spirituality and culture, right? For us, some of us like choose spirituality through religion, but for Indigenous people who are really connected to their culture, spirituality is part of who they are. I'm going to ask Amin to talk about what makes the earth sacred.
What's sacred?
Yeah. Oh, what's sacred? You're asking
what's
me
sacred?
What's sacred.
Yeah.
Ooh, you flipped it. Okay. For me, what's sacred are things that my grandmother taught me. Some of you may have noticed that every now and then I bite this piece of metal up here. My grandmother taught me that whenever you have too much inside of you, and you can just, whether it's your nervousness or negative something, you just bite that metal, usually a spoon. You want something that's like rounded, not like a fork. And you just bite that, and all that energy goes into that fork, or spoon, I mean. And that's something sacred, that really helpful, practical thing that not everyone can understand is sacred to me.
So why I asked that question is because there are different terms and different levels of sacred, and what sacred means to you will mean something different to you, will mean something different to you. So sacred to us is knowing that we are inseparable, that we are connected at every single moment in time, from second to minute to hour to day to week to month to year for the rest of our lives. So when we're out there ricing, in a sense, we're gathering and collecting ourselves. We're gathering and collecting our ancestors.
Those are rice beds up there, by the way.
So anybody ever had wild rice? Raise your hand. Wild rice. Right?
Oh, cool.
Good. So every year I go back because currently I do work out here in the prisons. So I go back every year and we do ricing. So ricing ceremony where it lasts for a couple weeks. Gathering up that rice so that I can give it to my relatives, give it to some friends. And while I'm out there, it's so beautiful because I pull, so I stand there, and while I make it look easy, it's actually really hard. And my buddy Charles, he is knocking the rice with the knockers. So we bend the rice down in, not to break it, but to gently pull it over the canoe and then swipe it with the knockers to land that rice into the canoe, and some goes back out. So it actually grows again. We don't really have to do anything, and that's why it's wild.
So there's like this natural replanting that goes on. You know that not everything is going to come into the canoe.
Right. Which means that if you need more, then you need to work harder. So rather than make it easier, some places they have combines and they're trying to genetically alter the wild rice, and some of you that know about genetically altering something there's not happy consequences. So
look, we have a few more minutes, but just go to these next images, right? So we just barely are starting to touch on how the earth is sacred. And you guys may have heard about No DAPL last year, right? We're getting ready for pipelines. Next slide. Getting ready for pipelines. I'm about to ask anyone in the crowd this next question, by the way. Picture of the pipeline. And then next slide. Anyone over here, what were you taught No DAPL was about? Anyone? What were you taught? What have you learned the protests about the pipeline was about? Who was it for?
Anyone?
Anyone? Okay, who's got their hand? I can't see. Oh. Yeah, who is no dapple for?
So, to my memory, it was both that it was on sacred Native American land, so they didn't want to risk hurting the land, and if there was an oil spill, it could also affect the water supply to the Native American reservations around there and to the much greater surrounding area as well.
Yeah, these protests aren't for Native people. Water, when you pour a glass of water on the ground, actually, do you want to say what I'm about to say? You know where I'm going. Yeah. Go ahead. No, you do it. Okay. When you pour a glass of water on the ground or you pour it in the soil, it doesn't stop just because it hits, I don't know, a log or something. It goes around the log. These protests aren't for Native people. This is for all of us. You want to elaborate?
There are 17 to 18 million people that are south of that pipeline. If that oil goes into the water, people that hunt, people that fish, so those deer that go and drink that water can no longer drink clean water. You have cornfields out there and vegetation and crops that no longer can get that water because there's oil in it. Birds that fly there and drink, that come there yearly to get their nutrients and then make offspring, will no longer, that will cease. And then you have us, which we're down there and we rely on that clean water. So if we can't get clean water, then that's kind of, and it's not just about us. That's one thing that people don't understand. Some of you don't understand is that it's not about me, myself, and I, which a lot of us are taught. I know that I was taught that. Everything's single serving. But in our culture, it's about we, us, and ours. We, us, and ours. That's what it really should be about. So that water is not just for us, it's for every single person and next generation of all the people that we share the land with on this continent.